everybody, Brooke here, and as a bonus feature for Buddha and the Slut, this will be a little independent Q&A moment. I wanted to answer a question that a listener has already sent in. Now, I did do a call for Q&A submissions, and gosh, so many came in, so it will be probably a monthly or bi-monthly feature where I'll be answering chunks, maybe 5 questions at a time. But most of those questions were either cerebral or about creativity, or maybe personal questions for me specifically. But this one that just came in through my website at brookeburgess.com, this was a question that had a certain amount of poignancy and urgency about a relationship issue the person was going through. And I wanted to answer this right away outside of the regularly scheduled podcast. So this one will be going on YouTube, maybe SoundCloud, also on Facebook, just to give you a sense of how I answer questions free-formed, not scripted, and really just off the top of my head. From the heart, if I can, be as raw as I possibly can be, and as honest, and hopefully as helpful, because this is pretty flattering when people will come to you asking advice, particularly about relationships, because God knows I am a romantic car crash waiting to happen, has happened, will continue to happen, but sometimes you get perspective from mistakes and you learn from it, and then people turn to you and they think that you know shit. So here I am with the stuff I think I know. The question comes from Michael.
I just love it when you take charge, you man, you.
Dear Brooke, I'm in a great relationship with a wonderful man and I couldn't ask for more. I feel like our relationship can be summed up by saying he is the scientist and I am the philosopher. Our debates are heated, long and insightful to new parts of each other. We have been together for 3 years and I regret nothing. We recently moved to Austin, Texas to pursue our goals, and while he joins the corporate world, I do what most artists do and get a shitty wage slave job. I hear you, brother. It doesn't pay well enough. It's here, though, that I encountered the young man known as Payton. I liked him physically from the moment I entered the store and saw his well-defined face with long black hair neatly tied up. It started as a crush until I learned he was also gay. I had a chance. My feels grew even more for him when I learned this. The more I talk to him, the more I want him, more than just physically. I dream of taking him to Tulum and taking him on the beaches at night. You are a romantic, Michael. But back to reality, though. I have a boyfriend who I love, or I thought I did. The confusion got so bad that I just told him I had a crush on the co-worker. I didn't mention the extent of the feelings, but figured the broad truth would help. It hasn't, and I'm still confused. Got any advice?
That is your receipt for your husband, and this is my receipt for your receipt.
Ooh, boy, let's unpack this one. Let's start with the logical parts. First off, Michael, 3 years, that's the itch, right? We've all heard of the 7-year itch before. Well, it's been compressed. Science has shown that, the dopamine and serotonin combo, the love cocktail in the brain, the oxytocin that drops when you love somebody and form a relationship is pretty much completely worn off, especially for women, but also for men too, to a slightly lesser degree, but mostly gone after about the 3-year mark. So that makes things challenging. Number 2, you also have the challenge of not just familiarity breeding contempt, which is that old chestnut, but also that your lover, the man that you're with, he is off pursuing his dreams with his work, with his career. He's feeling fulfilled. Meanwhile, you as an artist longing to express yourself and live in a passionate way, you're stuck in a shitty job. So you're going to feel trapped. You're probably fighting against forces of, inertia and depression. So of course, new love, new infatuation, a new connection is going to make you feel alive and vibrant and make you question everything that you're in. So, if we look at it logically, you've got 3 choices. You keep it quiet and you cheat and you get some. Oh, well, you haven't kept it quiet because you've told him already. So you told him and you're like, you put it on the line and basically say, hey, I love you, but I'm going to go get some anyway and fulfill myself. Can you deal with that or not? Will we be in an open relationship or not? Or you can deny your desires and you can repress it. And eventually, as we all know, resentment will grow and maybe it will cause an irreparable fracture in the relationship. And you'll have missed your window of opportunity by that time when it's all resolved. I'm not going to tell you which of these to take. It's not my place to do so. I'm showing you your options. I can say, and you'll hear this in a future Q&A podcast, in my 20 Questions podcast, you'll hear me talk about polyamory. It's a question that's come up a few times from people for me. And not to play bias here, but it tends to be more of a sticky issue between heterosexual couples with men and women. We can go into the biological reasons why, of course. The woman might be worried that the man would go off on some biological subconscious level and perhaps place their seed somewhere else and then have to split their support and their energy between families, between lovers, between children, what have you. And of course, the man worries, whether you like the word or not, whether you think it's bullshit or not, whether you think it's unevolved or not, the man worries about being cucked and that he's going to be traded up upon by a woman, or that her lover is going to place seed within her, she'll have a child and he'll be forced to care for it, which a lot of laws support. So that's a challenge. Now, with homosexual couples in that community, from what I know, from what I've encountered, from my friends who've shared their own personal anecdotes, there tends to be a bit more support for open relationships and understanding that we have this deep emotional bond, but there's going to be some play with other parties and other lovers within set boundaries in the relationship. It sounds like you've already broached this and that your partner, your lover, is just not cool with that. You can continue to try. You can, appeal to his scientific mind. As you said, he's a scientist. You're the philosopher. You can not approach it from the sense of romance and emotion, but approach it from the sense of science and say, well, if you look at the stats and look at couples that stay together and open relationships in the homosexual community, you can look at what works and try to appeal to him with logic. But it sounds like he's probably going to react from an emotional place. He is worried, like all men are worried, that you're going to trade up, that you're going off to something, quote, better than him. And he's worried about losing you. Of course he's worried about losing you. Now, the only advice I think I can really give is to shift your perspective a bit and look at this, dare I say it, from a spiritual perspective? No, but I do like to refer, when I'm in a stuck situation, and I encounter them all the time. I'm in one right now, actually, to be honest. And when I'm stuck on something big, a big life choice, a big life decision, I find myself, if I have a sit and do a bit of a meditator, I go for a long walk and think about it, I tend to swing back to the teachings of Patanjali and the Yoga Sutras. Now, if you're not familiar with that, it's kind of like the pillars of a yogic belief. And I'm not talking yoga as in poses. I'm talking about the whole concept of yoking the mind, of holding the mind and having self-mastery, of yoga, of old school Hindu faith. When you look at what Patanjali said, he really broke down every situation in our lives into these three simple pillars: intention, action, and understanding. So intention, you want something, you have a desire. Action, you do something to achieve said desire. Now, those first two pillars, that's how most of us live, period. I want something, I do something to get it. I want that job, I'm going to apply for it. I want that lover, I'm going to chase them and seduce them and have sex with them. I want money, I'm going to do this. I want, that new shirt, I'm going to save up for it. I want that car, I'm going to steal it from the lot. Whatever makes sense, we're going to do based upon our desires. We justify it. We use we make a collusion between our minds and our hearts and our instincts and our physical natures to get the thing that we want. But what most of us skip, according to Patanjali, what most of us skip is the third pillar, which is understanding. What did we want, and what were the consequences of the action that we chose to get it? The why of our desire. So I'm asking you, Michael, before you make a choice, whether it's just staying in your relationship and committing fully to it and letting go of this desire, or whether it's committing to this desire in a way that is fair with your partner, or in a way that is, purely, I'm going to do this and we'll keep it quiet and ostrich heads in the sand and don't talk, don't tell. It's like, if you didn't see it, it didn't happen. Whatever you choose to do, look at why you are feeling desire for this person all of a sudden. What you will do to act upon that desire. And then most importantly, what are the consequences of that action, the potential consequences? Will you lose the relationship? Will he feel betrayed? Will you find out soon after you've consummated it and after the passionate window is closed of a few months of having this new lover, will you feel satisfied? Will you feel that hole that is in your heart or your spirit or your physical vivaciousness and effervescence, will that fade quickly because maybe it is just a replacement for the fact that right now you are feeling a lack of control and agency in your life because you aren't getting to live freely as an artist and do the things you really want to do. You're stuck, as you said, and I quote, you have a shitty wage slave job that doesn't pay well enough. So it's almost like life, practical life, has neutered you, and you are trying to find a way to be potent again. You're trying to find almost, existential Viagra through this long, dark-haired, square-jawed, beautiful young man. And I've been there, not with a beautiful young man, but I have been there with lovers and taken my choices and thinking, okay, this is going to make me feel better. But I'll add this as my punctuation on this long and rambling sentence. Most of us fall in love with the idea of a person and not the person themselves. We create crystal castles in the clouds. We live in fantasy. And so when we idealize a person and we fall in love with the idea of their best self, inevitably we end up disappointed when we get to see the rest, or when we're forced to see the rest, when the rose-colored glasses are pulled from our eyes. I've had it happen before. I've been guilty of engendering it by putting my best foot forward, by being super charming, by lowering my voice, by being manly, by having swagger, by focusing on my successes, by making sure I have a stellar bedroom performance early, whatever it takes to get that person to be impressed. But when push comes to shove and time passes, eventually they're going to see your vulnerability, they're going to see your fragility. And if they fell in love with this idea of you, then that idea will be challenged, if not shattered, by the reality of you. And there's nothing worse than the disappointment that comes when our illusions are cast away, when they dissipate like old smoke. So make sure you're being real with yourself. Make sure you're being real with this Payton fellow, and make sure you're being real with your lover about why you want it and what the consequences will be. So thank you, Michael, for asking the question. And for the rest of you, thanks for listening. And I hope you will tune in to the next podcast, which will be the big Q&A with 5 big questions out of the 20. And hope to hear from you soon. Buddha and the Slut, write to me through brookeburgess.com or on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Player FM, SoundCloud, or on YouTube and Facebook. You can see it there, listen to it there. And thanks for your support, and I look forward to answering more of your questions soon. Take care.